First of all, I do apologize if you hear any vroom, sounds. Those are going to be like notifications and everything. Also, want to wish you guys a Merry Christmas. It is Christmas Day. And I decided I wanted to come on here and talk about something because Rally for Sally, fellow fan over on Twitter, aka X, came out and basically, I guess you could say they kind of, mentioned something a couple of days ago, and then they shared it recently on Facebook, or somebody did, where they talked about the fact that in the recent DLC for the Shredder's Revenge, for the TMNT retro arcade game that's been out for a while, in the recent DLC, which was called the Radical Reptiles, we had Mondo Gecko and Mona Lisa as playable characters. Now, both were background characters, basically, when the game first started, and when they became DLC, playable characters, the background avatars got removed. So the reason he brought this up is because, they felt like, well, Mona Lisa had not really been seen that much, in the style we know her as, or first knew her as. She's not been seen that much in that original Phil Roman early 90s, late 80s style for TMNT animation-wise since season 4. We've seen other interpretations of her through 2012 on Nickelodeon, as well as we've seen through the mainline IDW book. But we've never seen her as, again, we were first introduced to as. And they brought up the fact that, well, if we could see the original Mona Lisa, from TMNT, after so long, not just in game format, but in comic book format with the TMNT Saturday Morning Adventures by IDW, then what's stopping Sega overall, Sega of America, Sega of Japan, Sega of Europe, whatever, Sega overall, what's stopping them from not putting Sally out there, as we knew her? What's stopping Jeff Fowler, from including her into the movie franchise? What's stopping Wild Brain and, from coming up with another Sonic cartoon and saying, hey, we're going to include her as main character? Honest truth, nothing. I think nothing's really, preventing them. I think the main focus right now with Sega is they know that, yes, there is a fan base out there. Because you can't tell me Sega doesn't know about this. Sega of America, Japan, Europe, what have you. Overall, Sega. You can't tell me they don't know there is a fan base out there that knows about Sally, knows about Bunny, Rotor, Antoine, the Freedom Fighters, Dulcie, Lupe, the Wolf, Lupe the Wolf, and all them. You can't tell me there isn't, a monumental of people overall at Sega that are not aware about that, because they are. They are. But their primary focus, I think, right now is, they want to get the game characters over first. They want to basically make the game characters into the primary characters they need to be, so that once they establish them in that primary role, then they could probably focus on, bringing in other characters from Sonic lore over the past, couple of decades. That's what I think. I think, honestly, they are aware, that, that they do have characters like Sally and Bunny and Dulcie and Lupe and Rotor and Antoine, all of them under their belt, under their umbrella. They're just not choosing to use them right now because the primary focus is on establishing, if not reestablishing, the core game characters that have come out in the past 30 years, along with characters like Sally and Bunny and all them, but as well as the newer characters like Tango, Whisper, Surge, Kit, you name it. They want to focus primarily on them, reestablish them, if not establish them for the first time with newer fans, like through the movies and all that, before they decide, hey, let's take it, up a notch and now include all these other characters. Because when you think about the comparison, that Rally for Sally is making, or Rao for Sal, as they call themselves for short, is making, when you look at that comparison, 2012 TMNT took a while before they, introduced us to this new interpretation of Mona Lisa. It took them a couple of seasons before they brought her in, but they, eventually did. And then for IDW, it took them to what, like the midway, if not past midway of the, issue of the main comics run before they brought in that Mona Lisa, everything, that interpretation. It took them a while, and the reason it took them a while on both fronts is because they wanted to reestablish, if not establish, this new version, this new take on the TMNT and the core characters before revisiting and bringing in some old characters of the past, maybe with a new background, a new look, a new interpretation. As I said, the same with the Shredder's Revenge game. They wanted to establish the game first, establish the core characters you were going to play as, along with the other DLC characters, before they said, okay, let's test the ground level here and see what happens if we bring in these characters. And the rest is history. Because they've gotten an honest, positive response. So I think, honestly, when you get down to it, that's exactly what I think is going on here, in my opinion. They're waiting patiently before they decide, hey, let's bring in these other characters that are part of the Sonic lore, that are not game characters, but are very well known by fans, longtime fans, and introduce them maybe with a new interpretation, maybe with a new background and everything, that, could fit easily in with this new lore we're creating. I mean, when you look at the movies, that's what they're doing primarily anyway. Just saying. But I think that's honestly a good comparison. And, when, by Rally for Sally, that's a good comparison for them to make because, if it took almost 30 plus years for us to get to get the original design and interpretation of Mona Lisa back into the forefront or back into the spotlight, along with the other interpretations of her, then the freedom fighters like Sally and Bunny and all of them, I don't think we have to worry about, if they'll ever get in there. It's just a matter of when. And I think, that matter of when is going to basically be when all the core game characters and some of the new game characters, or sort of game characters, are established, if not reestablished, with the audience and new audiences before they decide to take that leap. Because again, they know the fan base is out there. They know these characters are in their back pockets to, basically bring in at their disposal. They know it. And I don't think they will ever deny that. But I just wanted to bring that up because it is a good comparison. I mean, if Mona Lisa in her original design and presentation can be brought back to the IDW Saturday morning cartoon comics of the TMNT, as well as the DLC playable character in Shredder's Revenge, I'm just saying, there's probably hope yet, strong hope, that Sega will do the same thing for Sally, Bunny, Dulcie, Lupe, the Rotor, Antoine, you name it, the freedom fighters, they'll do the same for them in the long run. But just like with the people behind, Nickelodeon, that is, the people behind the TMNTs at IDW, the video games, and even the shows, I think what, just like they did with them, where they wanted to focus on the core cast first, and the core characters you'd be playing on, or the core cast you'd be reading about and watching, before bringing in these other characters or these different interpretations. I think honestly that's kind of the vibration we're getting here with Sega, and the people at IDW, the people on the movies, the people even in the games, the mobile games. I think that's primarily what's going on. They want to establish, if not reestablish, the core game characters and the sort of new game characters that are also in the comics, if not may make appearances elsewhere, before they decide, okay, let's take a chance and bring these characters in and see what happens. But again, just my opinion, but I got to give a shout out to Riley Fasali, Rich, if you will, that's their name, for bringing up this nice comparison. And let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere, as well as click on the link to my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Check me out at deviantart.com at BVW1979. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you later, but give me your thoughts, and you all have a Merry Christmas, and have a happy and safe one with your family and friends.